Hello, everyone. Welcome to the ESI Digest, where we run through the week's biggest esports business-related stories. I'm Kerry Wananen, head of multimedia content at Esports Insider, filling in for my colleague Tom Daniels, your regular host. We have 5 huge stories to get through this week, but first, I'd like to thank our partners at REELY.ai, an amazing fan engagement and content service. So please head over to the website and check it out before we drop in. On this week's ESI Digest, we're going to be covering Semper Fortis appointing Dominic Calvert-Lewin as brand ambassador, Alfred Chak joining Esports Engine as its chief operations officer, Loud and PIET joining forces to create a new esports fashion department within Loud, Guild Esports launching the Guild Academy, and Misfits Gaming Group announcing the Misfits Agency. Our first big story of the week sees Dominic Calvert-Lewin named as Semper Fortis' esports ambassador. Now, for those that don't know, Calvert-Lewin is an English professional footballer for the Everton Football Club. In his new role, Calvert-Lewin will promote Semper Fortis' assets, that's including their European Rocket League squad, announced as Top Blokes. Moreover, he's expected to interact with the company's online community, produce content, and accommodate fan activations, pretty standard issue for brand ambassadorship. The appointment is interesting because it follows the announcement of the organization's £2.5 million raise on the Aqueous Stock Exchange listing. I don't think that Semper Fortis is following in the footsteps of Guild Esports as much as they are trying to apply a traditional sports model and fandom to a new esports venture. Dominic Calvert-Lewin will be compensated in some sense of being able to acquire stock in the company, but he is not named as a brand ambassador and co-owner such as David Beckham and Guild Esports. It'll be interesting to see if this tactic plays out with a big name but not as big as Beckham. Our next big story this week sees esports operations company Esports Engine appointing Alfred Chak as its first ever chief operations officer. In his new role, Chak will collaborate with the company's senior leadership on short and long-term projects, business strategies, as well as executing business expansion and growth plans. On top of that, he will be overseeing operational initiatives and financial reporting across the company. This isn't necessarily out of line or extra work compared to that of your typical COO. However, Chak comes in this role with a lot of experience. Previously, he served as the CFO and COO of IMAX Entertainment Division. On top of that, he has also served as head of strategy and corporate development at Deluxe Entertainment Service Groups, strategic planning and chief of staff for EA's mobile publishing group, and head of business planning and strategy at the Walt Disney Studios. He is incredibly qualified for this role, and we at Esports Insider are really excited to see how he can drive Esports Engine further. Our penultimate story this week sees Brazilian esports organization Loud announcing the launch of its new fashion division in partnership with PIET, the brand of famed Brazilian stylist Pedro Andrade. Now, this is not just a one-off drop, and this is not, we're gonna put our name on it and you put it out there. This is a new fashion division within Loud. Andrade has also been invited to become the creative director of the newly created Loud apparel, including the development of the collection. He's collaborated with big groups before, previously with companies such as Ryder, Nike, the NBA, Budweiser, Start, and Champion Clothing. Loud's fashion division has already put out a shirt to commemorate its launch, but more will be coming in June, according to the press release. We are likely going to see more seasonal or infrequent drops since this plan has seemed to work. Esports has long flirted with fashion, so the introduction of a new fashion division dedicated into an esports organization is nothing new. Arguably, 100 Thieves began as a fashion division that then expanded within esports, and this is taking a different route. I'm really excited to see how it plays out. Next up, Beckham-backed Guild Esports launches their Guild Academy. Following in the footsteps of the traditional sports academy model, Guild Esports has introduced online esports subscription service. Players aged 11 and up will gain access to training programs, tournaments, gameplay analysis, as well as peer-to-peer coaching and advice from Guild experts. The Academy's launch will include programs for both Fortnite and Rocket League, and more titles such as FIFA and Valorant expected to be introduced at a later date. Interesting angle of this is it provides a pipeline for young up-and-comers to then directly convert to Guild Esports, or potentially to make a name for themselves in the Guild Academy and find themselves in a different org. And our final big story of the week sees Florida-based esports organization Misfits Gaming Group launching the Misfits Agency, a media company designed to help brands enter the esports and gaming sector with an aim to bridge the gap between generational audiences through content creation. And award-winning content creator Amy Palmer has become the Misfits Agency's president. Seems to be that the agency will create collaborative gray label or white label content for brands looking to activate in the space without necessarily needing to involve the Misfits Gaming organization's esports and influencer roster. This could be that they have a lot of unused resources that they see fit to add another monetization option for the organization. Could also be interesting to see that brands approaching Misfits that maybe cannot find a good fit could now actually utilize the agency's resource to produce content to attract the esports audience. It remains. And that's it for this week's ESI Digest. To check out these stories and much, much more, head over to esportsinsider.com. And don't forget to follow Esports Insider on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. It's been a pleasure, but we'll be back next week with the host with the most, Tom Daniels. Another big thank you to our partners REELY for supporting this episode. You can find out more about them at REELY.ai. Until next week, see you then.